Good evening, guys. This will be our preteen Sunday school class, and we didn't have any Sunday school last Sunday, but the one before that, we finished up chapter 12 in the book of Romans, so we're going to keep on going on in Romans, and so we'll be in chapter 13, starting at verse 1. It says, "Let every soul be subject unto the higher powers, for there is no power but of God. The powers that be are ordained of God." So this first part of the chapter, there's a little header of my Bible. It says honor to authority, and you can look at it in different ways. But the way I want to look at it today is talking about our natural government that we have to go by, whether it be you're talking about cops, you're talking about the mayor, you're talking about your senators, a governor, president of the United States, whatever you want to look at, but use those as an example here. And it says that let every soul be subject unto the higher powers. So basically, we need to listen to what they have to say. And we see that on down through here. And if you just read the next part and you don't read the last part of this verse, you might get confused. But it says, "For there is no power but of God." But then it goes on to say the powers that be are ordained of God. So God has put them in the positions that they're in, and He's put them in those positions for a reason. And I don't ever always know God's reasoning for why He does things, but God's got a reason for these people being in the place that they're in. And we see here, like this chapter is going to teach us here, that we need to listen to their guidelines and everything, and we do. But once those things go against God's word, things change. I believe then, and I believe that we all have to honor authority, as this will teach us here. Uh, but God will come first in that. So, what I mean by that, and what I'm telling you this morning is that if it goes against God's word, uh, we can't listen to that. We can't go by that. We will take God's word and we'll have to go by it first, and then we'll go by man's law after that. But God's laws, this Bible, it'll come first before all these other things. And we see this that we've took maybe I guess about 2 months. They advised us not to gather in groups larger than 10 and things like that. And we've listened to that, and I believe we should have, and I think that was a good thing. Um, they was trying to be helpful to these people, um, to all of us. But I'm talking more so about some other things that just because somebody else says it's all right, if God's word says it's not all right, then it ain't. And that won't matter who says that. But we're not trying to talk about that really. We're trying to talk about that we ought to be subject into the laws of the land. Okay? Um, and more so, you can see a lot of these laws that we have are carried over from the laws that God gave down. I mean, God gave the commandments. He said, "Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal." And we take those things and they're applied in today's laws too, that are laws of man, just as well as these laws we've had of God. But we need to honor this authority, as my little header says here. It goes on in verse 2. It says, "Whosoever therefore resisteth the power, resisteth the ordinance of God. And they that resist shall receive to themselves damnation." So damnation here uh, is more of meaning a judgment. We're not talking about like eternal damnation in this verse. We're talking about a judgment as far as on this earth. So if you resist the things, this authority, let's call it that, if you resist your authorities, if you resist the laws that are put in place to be helpful for you, there's going to be a judgment for you, right? And you can think of that as this: if one of you all go and take, or me, we'll use whoever for example. I'll just use myself, I guess. If I take and I go and steal something, I'm going to get punished for that, right? Or if I take and I go and hit somebody, that'd be assault. That's against the law. Uh, so I would get in trouble for that. And these just different laws and things like that. If we go against them, we're going to get in trouble for it. And that's pretty much what this verse is saying. The 3 says, "For rulers are not a terror to good works, but to the evil. Wilt thou then but not be afraid of the power?" So basically, they're meant to be good to you, right? The rulers that's over us are meant to be a help to us. Are they always? I don't know that I would say all of them are, but there's a lot of them that have a lot of really good intentions. And it says, "Do that which is good, and thou shalt have praise of the same." So if you're doing the things that are good, like we should be, then these people, this authority, let's call it that again, they'll have praise for us. They're not going to have any trouble for us, but all they're going to do is help us and punish the people that are doing the things that they shouldn't be doing. So we don't need to be resisting the authority that they've been given by God and by the people that have voted them into the position they're in, but we need to honor that. And it says in 4, "For he is the minister of God to do to thee for good. But if thou do that which is evil, be afraid, for he beareth not the sword in vain. For he is the minister of God, a revenger to execute wrath upon him that doeth evil." So like I said, if we take care and we go and steal something, we're going to get in trouble for it. And that verse is teaching us again here, if you're doing that which is evil, you should be afraid of that. There's nothing that you can do in the dark that won't be brought to the light eventually. I think a lot of times in our lives that we think we've got stuff hid, and we might from man, but we don't have anything hid from God. And what I think people fail maybe to realize is that God can reveal that to somebody else. We could go back in the Old Testament and look at a certain situation there. They was taking an army and going around trying to find another army, and God kept telling the man of God where these people was going to be at. So God can reveal stuff to people, and he can let them know the very intents of your heart, and he can let them know just exactly what you've done. Now, whatever we do, any sin that we do, whatever it is, it doesn't really matter what it is. It takes us out of fellowship with God. And if we take here, just as this, talking about authority, if we go out here and we riot, or if we go and break a law, or just whatever, any kind of thing you could think of like that, it's going to be harm to us. We could be cast into prison here, and he says, "He beareth not the sword in vain." So basically, his title is not in vain. He will correct you in what you go and you do wrong. It says, "A revenger to execute wrath upon him that doeth evil." It goes on to say in 5, "Wherefore ye must needs be subject, not only for wrath, but also for conscience sake." So not just because, don't not do something just because you're going to get in trouble for it, but do it because it's the wrong thing to do, right? If you know something's wrong and you know you'll get in trouble for it, you're probably not going to do it, okay? But even though that we know it's wrong and we do it anyway, is that not going to bring trouble to us? It is, and that's what he says, for conscience sake. Don't do this anyway because you already know that it's wrong. If you know in your mind that whatever you're doing is wrong, you shouldn't be doing it. Whether you get caught or whether you don't, you shouldn't be doing that thing. And I think a lot of times something that separates, and I'll say for myself, I guess, something that separates me from God more than what the things I do, right, is the things that I think. And you say, "Well, preacher, you didn't actually do them." No, but have you ever been, and I guess, talking more to those right now that have driver's license, but if you've ever been driving down the road and somebody almost hit you or something, you'll get mad and think, "I'd like to whoop them," or something to that effect. You could put it in many different situations. But you think about, physically harming somebody else, even though maybe it's just for a split second. You think we ought to think like that? No, we shouldn't. We need to be thinking the good things and to think about what God would want us to do. And of course, that's just something simple and it's something small. And do we really mean it? Well, probably not. But in the heat of the moment, man, we get mad, don't we? Or I'll say I do. So we have to watch those things that come up in our lives like that, and try to keep ourselves under subjection. Goes on to say in verse 6, for this cause pay ye tribute also. So, for they are God's ministers, attending continually upon this very thing. So I ain't going to get into all these taxes and stuff. You will have just so many opinions of what taxes we should be paying and what we shouldn't, and this and that and this and that. That would be more the political side of this. We're talking about the godly side of it, okay? But basically, tribute here means taxes. So pay your fair share of taxes, because that's what the government has told us to do. And that's basically what we've been talking about, is following the laws that the government has told us to do, and they've set down, and God's appointed these people in the position that they're in. So pay you taxes, and it says, for they are God's ministers, attending continually upon this very thing. So they are following after the things that they think is right, okay? We're all going to make mistakes, and we're all going to mess up. Over in one place there, let's read this other verse real quick, and I'll tell you about that. But in verse 7 it says, render therefore to all their dues, tribute to whom tribute is due, custom to whom custom, fear to whom fear, honor to whom honor. So basically, give all men and women their just reward, right? Whether it be to pay them taxes, or whether it be to fear them, whether it be to honor them, however, and these different things here that it reads. But think about it like this. If you go and you talk to a police officer because he pulls you over because you was speeding, shouldn't you be nice to him and respect him? Well, yeah, you should. And if you do, it's probably going to work out a lot better for you. If you're hateful to him and mean to him, he's probably more than likely going to write you a ticket just because of your attitude. The way we treat people, it matters. But it talks about here, render therefore to all their dues, and it made me think back. And I'll hurry and flip back over here. We don't have a lot of time left, but it's Matthew chapter 22. Matthew chapter 22. Let's see here, verse 21. It says, they say unto him, Caesar's. Then saith he unto them, render therefore unto Caesar the things which are Caesar's, and unto God the things that are God's. So we can see there, that was Jesus talking, that the things that are earthly, follow after them. If you're supposed to honor the president, and I believe we should, honor him. But the things that are God's, honor God's things too. That was talking about taxes and things like that. And we'd have to go look more at that verse to see what they was really trying to do with Jesus. They was trying to get him in trouble. But that's neither here nor there. So guys, take this and understand that not everybody from the government is out to get you. They're trying to be a help to you, okay? Or most of them are, I'll say it that way. And we're out of time, but I'll tell you, I love you. I can't wait to see you tomorrow, and God bless you.